Welcome to The Explorer. I am your host, Jonathan Hayes, and today I am sharing a talk that I gave at the Iditarod EDU conference. That was held at Poland Spring Resort this year right here in Maine. I was honored to be able to go and speak and share about the 750-mile solo dog sled expedition that we undertook last year in Alaska, retracing on the 100-year anniversary, the Serum Run that happened a century earlier. So in this podcast, I'm going to tell that story and have a good time with some school teachers from around the nation who've gathered to listen in.
How's everybody doing? Everybody got stretched out? You're good?
Yes.
All right. My name is Jonathan Hayes. I'm a former United States Marine. I have my son, who is an Afghanistan combat vet, with me here tonight, Asa. And Asa has two brothers that are currently serving right now, one in the Marine Corps and one in the Air Force. So you cut us and we bleed red, white, and blue. We love our country. So I'll start with that. I'm also a biology teacher up in northernmost Maine, where the Frenchies say Senegat, which is actually St. Agatha, just outside of Fort Kent. I want to give honor to a bunch of people that are in the room today. To Jim Depre, of course. Thank you for inviting us. Also, the owner of Poland Spring Inn and Resort, Cindy Robbins, who's a dear friend of mine, is in the back of the room. Eartha Linhar, who's an Iditarod finisher and a good friend of mine, the head of the Sapala House Project in Nome, Alaska, is here, so it's good to see him. And I feel like Oz, he says, don't pay any attention to the man behind the curtain. Don't pay any attention to the dogs in the back of the room right now until I'm through presenting. They're the real stars of this show, and you're going to have plenty of time. They're going to walk with us on the trail, plenty of time to meet them. And so I also want to thank my first daughter kennel, my first satellite kennel, my good friend Amy Nichols, who bought a team from us, ran her first Can-Am 30 this year and did really well. So it's good to have her here. All right. Are you ready?
Yes.
Here we go. 1925. It was the perfect storm. It was the storm of the century. The biggest storm that anyone could remember was coming into Nome, Alaska. The ocean was frozen up. There was no way in or out of Nome, Alaska at this time of year. And that's the time that diphtheria decided to strike Nome, Alaska. We all came through COVID. We all remember that COVID kind of focuses on the elderly. So this was just the opposite. Diphtheria focused on taking the lives of children. They could be completely healthy today and gone tomorrow. It was known as the strangler of children. And as a father, I can't imagine having to go through the agony of watching that. Leonard Sepla, who we're going to talk about today, had a daughter in Nome, Alaska during this time. And when this storm broke out, the planes of the time period were not able to deal with those kind of conditions. They couldn't even get them started, much less flying in those temperatures. No way to get it in by ship or by rail. So what they did was they got it as far inland as they could to Nenana, and then they set up a relay of dog sled teams from Nenana to Nome. It was 20 mushers, 17 of which were native, 150 dogs, and five of those dogs died during the Serum Run. It's not something that's talked about much. A few more of those dogs died after the Serum Run. Alaska, interior Alaska, low Arctic Alaska is a completely different animal. I've had the pleasure and the honor of running Mitch Seavey's dogs and training up there and doing some Iditarod qualifiers. But Iditarod interior low Arctic Alaska in January is a completely different animal. And we're going to talk about that shortly. But they did this relay, and you're going to meet some of these mushers. This is the famous Balto and Gunnar Kaysen. They were the ones who brought the serum into Nome. And because the news never gets anything right. The news gave all of the credit to Balto and Gunnar Kaysen, not realizing until later that the true heroes, they were all heroes, obviously, right? But the greatest hero of this run was Leonard Seppala and his lead dog, that goofy-looking dog right there, Togo. He was 3/4 Siberian and 1/4 Malamute. And but you had so many others, like Edgar Callen's here, and up there at the top you have Wild Bill Shannon and his lead dog, Blackie. No one traveled further or risked more than Leonard Seppala and Togo. In comparison, Gunnar Kaysen did about 50 miles. Leonard Seppala did over 250 miles. We believe the best estimate is around 261 miles. Crossing Norton Sound not once to save time and lives, but crossing Norton Sound twice. It's a 20-mile stretch of ice, and he did that twice to save lives and to save the children of Nome. We're going to talk a little bit more about Gunnar Kaysen. So a little bit about myself. My story kind of reflects a little bit of Laura and her father's story. Laura is smarter than me. And this is what I mean by that. I learned from the school of hard knocks. I was a sixth-generation Tennessean and served in the Marine Corps, decided to settle here, and I was about the age that Laura is now, a little bit younger. And I had an old-timer say, if you're going to move to Maine, you'd better find a way to enjoy the winters, or you're going to go crazy. And I said, I love dogs and I love snow, and I just saw this awesome movie called Iron Will. So I'm going to go and so I got an Uncle Henry's. Anybody know what an Uncle Henry's is? Swap and Sell magazine. And I just started adopting people's couch potato Siberian Huskies. Worst mistake ever. Don't do that. Don't do that. What you should do every time people ask me for advice, it's been 30 years now I've been mushing, and I tell them, find some mentors. And it was only recently, about 6 or 7 years ago, Don Hibbs, who's a multiple Can-Am Crown winner, and Mitch Seavey kind of both took me under their wing, kind of been teaching me the ropes. Before that, I was just learning by doing stupid stuff. Actually, in 2000, I came to my first Can-Am Crown, and I was still using a bear claw. And I was looking around, I was like, oh, I've seen these nice bar brakes with the carbide tips, and I was like, that's how they stock their teams. So it's a long story. I won't get into all of that, but I will say that during COVID, a dear friend of mine who's also very passionate about the history of Leonard Seppala and Togo, Cindy Robbins, who owns this resort, she reached out to me during COVID. The Can-Am had been canceled. All the races had been canceled. And Cindy reached out to me and said, I want to build a monument to Togo here at his final resting place in Poland Spring. And I said, well, let me help. I said, I can't run any races. I'll just mush from Fort Kent, Maine to Greenville, which was right at 261 miles. It ended up being around 280, with my dog sled team to raise some awareness and get some funds going. And the results are here. We have a Togo monument here, and that was Cindy's brainchild, and I was excited to be a part of that. But when that was over, the reporters asked, obviously, what's next? And I thought, well, what is next? And 1925 was the saving of the children of Nome. 2025 is coming right up. For 25 of the last 30 years, I have been working with Seppala Siberian sled dogs. For the last 6 years, I've been the president of the International Seppala Siberian Sled Dog Club. And so I said, well, wouldn't it be cool, instead of 20 teams, mushing the whole 750 miles from Nenana to Nome? What if one team, what if Leonard Seppala's team mushed from Nenana to Nome in 2025, a century later? And so because I'm a purist like this, I thought it's also got to be on January 27th. And the folks in Alaska were saying, no, it's not going to be on January 27th. The river is not safe, and that's the primary means of travel. And especially, I hate to admit it, but the climate has been warming quite a bit, and things aren't quite what they used to be. So Aaron Burmeister, Larry Murphy and some of my friends up in Alaska were like, the trail's just not going to be there. And I was like, well, we're going to try. And so we did that same 5,000-mile trip. We had 3 drivers, a diesel Dodge Ram, a 32-foot trailer, 3 snowmobiles. See, back 100 years ago, this region of Alaska was actually more populated than it is now. Back then, every 35 miles or so, there was a roadhouse. So the musher would run his leg of the relay. He'd go into the roadhouse, have a nice meal, and hand off the serum to someone else and park his dogs and feed his dogs, and he was done. Those roadhouses, only one of those roadhouses still exists, and we've got a picture of it in this presentation and in the book. But so what we didn't have was roadhouses, so we had to make up for that somehow. So 2 Mainers came along with me, Amy Nichols' husband, Jamie Nichols. If he can't fix it, it can't be fixed. And his friend, Jeff Kelly, came along as our support team, and they had these massive trailers that they built themselves, hauling all of the food and equipment, the salmon, the beaver, the beef, everything that we were hauling for 16 dogs for 750 miles across the low Arctic. The locals were telling us we don't even travel between villages at this time of year. The river is unsafe. There are no trails in until the middle of February, sometimes early February, but we don't even have trails in. We don't travel between villages at this time of year. The conditions are too bad. Aaron Burmeister, who's an Iditarod veteran, realized when I got to Nenana that I was planning on taking off no matter what. He was like, well, let's try to find a way to make this work. And he worked with Jamie Nichols, and those 2 guys went out 2 days ahead of me to try to get 50 miles to the Talivana Roadhouse. And on January 27th, when I was pulling my quick stick to start this expedition, just as I reached for that quick stick, my satellite text message came in from Jamie, and he had been out there for 2 days trying to go 50 miles by snowmobile. He said, his message said, impassable, cannot be done, must find a different route. This was already our plan C. We had spent 18 hours stuck in the truck in an avalanche the day before. We just literally parked on the interstate for 18 hours, stuck in an avalanche, unloaded the dogs, had 1 day to settle in. We were about to take off. And so I looked at the weather, and there was going to be, and there was, a 100-degree temperature shift on the first day. Within 24 hours, it went from 40 degrees above zero. Yeah, this is Jamie Nichols, this is Amy's husband there. Why all the guns? Because America, that's why. And rather than just showing photos of them, I thought I'd spice things up a little bit. But yeah, that's the team. So here I am at the same railroad station where the serum was passed off to Wild Bill Shannon, and the mayor, Verhagen of Nenana, comes out. I heard the door open. He comes out with an Alaska Railroad wooden box that's 100 years old that contained vials of serum. He handed that to me. Now talk about not wanting to break something in your dog sled. I'm wrapping this thing up in all kinds of blankets and packing it down as far as I can. So this is where I got that text message from Jamie. And I checked the weather. The weather was just starting to shift into our favor. And so here was my hope that all this overflow, that all of these swamps that she was talking about, that in this 24-hour period, it would freeze up enough just to get us that first 50 miles. And so I'd mush out of town 20, 30 miles and park and let the temperatures crash. And crash they did. We finally made it to the Talivana Roadhouse. I have so many stories to tell. They're all in that book. And here's the good news. I'll say this now because I'll forget it later. Caleb Gingra, who is a North Face filmmaker, came along with us on this expedition. He says December, this will be out. He was trying to get the trailer for it done in time for this presentation so that you guys could be the first ones to see it. I've been checking my phone to see if that trailer was done yet. It wasn't, but he did send me a 3-minute montage that I'll show you at the end of this, just of some random videos that he threw together. He's a North Face filmmaker. He's very good, and he wants to talk to you about maybe partnering with Iditarod EDU for that documentary. So we'll get to that. But this was my baptism by fire. This was the crucible. We were going from Tullivana Roadhouse to Manly, and this was about 1 o'clock in the morning, and the cameraman was leapfrogging ahead of me. Our team had gone ahead, Jamie and Jeff had gone ahead earlier in the day. They were having to cut branches, break trail. The only thing worse than having no trail is having a freshly broke trail with big crust pieces of ice in the trail this big. And so my dog spent the whole run trying to run up on the shoulder instead of the tracks that the snowmobilers had left. It was a mess. So I come up over a ridge in the middle of the night, and I see as the sled's teetering and about to come down. It's a full freight sled that was built here in Maine by Maine Made Sleds, a big freight sled. It was excellent. Yeah. Oh, that is too? Excellent. So, yeah, he's a great guy. So my sled's teetering, we're going down, and I see the cameraman flashing his headlight at me, which means there's danger ahead. It could have been a moose, could have been, I have no idea. So when I go to look from him to go look down, I see that my lead dogs are already swimming in open water. And I'm going to prove to you that it was a minimum of 50 below zero in just a second. So my lead dogs are swimming in water. I don't even give the whoa command. I throw my snow hooks down. I'm sliding down the bank, hoping that by the time I get to the shore, that my lead dogs have self-rescued. No such luck. So I lay down on my belly, and I'm belly crawling out there, and I reach and I get Druid's harness, my leader, and just when I get a hold of his harness, King, who's here, back there, King climbs on Druid's back and pushes him under the water. And so I grab King, and so, I don't care how strong you are. If you're laying on your belly and you're trying to pick up two 60-pound wet dogs like this, it doesn't really work. So I turned my body, and when I did, all that concentrated weight shoved me through the ice and into the water. I've been asked how deep it was. All I can tell you is I couldn't touch bottom. And you never know how you're going to respond in a situation like that until you're actually in it. I thought I'd freak out. There are times that I did freak out, but in this moment, I really didn't freak out. I just remembered what the Marine Corps taught me. I'm doing the kicking up in the back, and I'm doing the belly crawl back onto the ice while I'm holding onto one of their harnesses. And then I finally get them out, but we're on the wrong side of the water. We still have to get to the other side. And as you can see up here, I'm leading them around the ice hole, and they're like, nope, this is not safe, and we don't want to do this again. And they were right. I went through the ice again, and I bet you're wondering how we got these photos. I'm going to tell you in just a second. So I went through the ice again, and this time, my heroic sled dogs, they saved me. Nope. All 16 of them were like, oh, look, a human bridge to the other side. And the whole team and the sled just comes running right over me. And so they get to the other side. They're a tangled mess. Everything is immediately freezing. Something I'd never seen happen before. I took my over mittens off, and ice would freeze up on my hand, and I'd brush it off, and ice would freeze up immediately on my hand again, and I'd brush it off. And so then this voice said, Jonathan, what's next? What's the plan? And I was like, Jesus? And I was like, oh yeah, the cameraman. Now listen to this. Caleb Gingra is on the other side just filming this whole thing going, this is awesome. Oh yeah. So it's going to be in the film. I can't wait to see this. So he said, do you want to start a fire? And I said, well, that'd be the best thing for me, but it's not the best thing for my dogs. We got to get as much moisture off them as possible, and we got to get moving to Manly Hot Springs. And so that's what we did. I didn't know how the dogs would respond. The dogs acted like they knew exactly what to do. They laid down in the snow. They rolled around so that the snow would absorb the moisture from their coats, and then they shook that off, and then they repeat. And any ice balls, they were grooming themselves while I'm unhooking all of these gang lines. These dogs have been bred in the lower 48 for decades, and they knew exactly what to do. I was the newbie here. I was the rookie. Like, these guys were pros. I mean, it's like they've been doing it the whole time. So we pull up into Manly Hot Springs, and Chief Ray, who's the village chief, native chief, Athabascan chief of the area, he's on the porch, and I'm chatting with him, and I'm like, 50 below zero? Because that's, the thermometer on the porch. And he goes, no. 50 below zero here in Manly. Down in the valley you just came through, it's always 10 to 15 degrees colder. Yeah. So we went through the water at least 50 below zero. It was crazy. To give you an idea, it wasn't much better when Edgar Callens did it a century earlier. When Edgar Callens pulled into Manly Hot Springs, the same place, the owner of the roadhouse had to come out with boiling water and pour it over his hands to free his hands from the handlebar. I was a little bit better off than that, although I had gone through water. When I went inside, I found that my bibs were frozen to my boots. I could not take one off without the other. And when I went to pull my boots off, I found that my 2 layers of wool socks were frozen to the inside of my boot. So they went off with the boot, and I could not pull them out. They were just locked solid in there. So it was cold. It was cold, to say the least. This next story, I was leaving Ruby, and give you a little bit of the routine on the trail. The gas stations in the villages don't open up until like 11 or 12 o'clock in the afternoon. So the rhythm we got into is I would just take off. I'd take off 7, 8 o'clock in the morning, and the guys would wait until the gas stations would open up. They'd get filled up with gas. They'd pass me somewhere on the trail, and they would go on. So I'd see them once a day on the trail, and they would go on to the next village set up for me and the dogs, which is really great. And so I would see them about midday every day. I was pulling out of Ruby. We thought about staying in Ruby, because the hospitality there was great. The villagers were bringing us all this really great food. And we were like, the dogs could need a rest. Actually, we just wanted to eat more food. But I was like, no, we're gonna hit the trail. We're gonna keep going. And about 2 hours out of Ruby, everything's white. Like the river, the Yukon River is white. Everything's white. The sky's white. It's just all bleeding into just one big whiteness. And I see some kind of form on the river. Now, I usually can tell. I don't have the best eyesight on the planet, but I can usually tell what's ahead of us by the way my dogs respond. And mushers know this. Like, if there's humans on the trail, the dogs are like, yes, the musher's going to chat with that human. We're going to take a break. We're going to get pets. We're going to get loves. This is going to be great. And so that's the response I get from the team when there's people ahead before I even see them. If there's an animal on the trail, then the predator drive kicks in. We're a wolf pack. Let's chase that down. They turn on the afterburners. They want to go, and you're riding the brakes. Neither one of those responses is what they were doing. So this is going to be something completely new to me. They were scared of whatever was on the trail, and which made me nervous and afraid of whatever was on the trail, because it wasn't moving normally. It wasn't moving like anything normally would. And as I came up closer, I realized that it was a human. And I tried right in the middle of the Yukon in late January. I think we're maybe the last day of January, first day of February. And I'm like I turn on my GoPro because I was like, this is going to be interesting, whatever it is. The GoPro's dead. I try to pull out my phone. And then by the time that happens, my dogs are doing something they never do. Instead of going to the human, they were all swinging around him like they were afraid of him. And when my sled pulled up to him, he just collapsed on my sled. This is a village elder from Ruby who was in probably at least his 60s that was trying to go to Galena to see his mother and had gotten his snowmobile swamped in the overflow the night before. And so he had spent the whole night trying to self-rescue himself and was only half a mile away from where his snowmobile had gotten stuck. He had gone through the overflow several times. His feet were frozen. I could not get his boots off. He had lost gloves. He had his one hand pulled up inside of his glove. This was an extra parka that Aaron Burmeister lent me for the expedition just so that I could have a second one. So I wrapped him in this, gave him my coffee, people in the next village were like, by the time we got there, there was the news had traveled. Oh, you're a hero. I'm like, no, that, like literally anybody who would have come up to him would have done exactly what I did. I put heat packs in him everywhere I could. I covered him up. I called with the satellite option. I called Aaron Burmeister and a couple other people, and I was like, get the game wardens or the state troopers out here to rescue this guy. But when I got there, I'll be honest, like I didn't have coffee for the rest of the day. I mean, this guy drank all my coffee, and I'm a coffee drinker, so that was frustrating. But this was a very interesting thing. The dogs knew this guy was almost dead. I found out later. I call her the Queen of the Yukon, Cindy Erickson, who lives in Tanana. She told me what happened with him later, and he was at the last stages of hypothermia, and the dogs knew this. The dogs knew that there was something weird here, something different here. They knew something that I didn't know, and it was just an interesting part of our trail. Old woman cabin. So we finally get off the Yukon, and we're going over this, what for us was going to be a 2-day portage. We're going to portage to Old Woman Cabin, and then the next day we were going to land down on the Bering Sea coast. And so this Old Woman Cabin, if you follow the Iditarod at all, you know about Old Woman Cabin. It's supposed to be haunted, and you're supposed to leave chocolates for her. Because if you do not leave chocolates for her, she will, the rest of your expedition, the rest of your race, whatever it is you're doing, will be tragic if you do not appease the spirit of Old Woman at Old Woman Cabin. Now, I don't believe in any of that stuff. I am a very spiritual person, but I have, my own set of beliefs. But I wanted to honor the tradition. So I was like, oh, the old woman. So I run out to the sled, and I'm digging around because I had brought a Snickers for just this moment. This is a true story with my hand up. We had not seen the Northern Lights the entire expedition. I took that Snickers, I put it there, and then boom, these Northern Lights just start filling the sky. That's pretty amazing. Yes?
You had a Snickers bar that survived my husband.
That's why it was in the bottom of the bag, Amy. That's why it was in the bottom of the bag. All right, so then the moment of truth. We had been monitoring the crossing of Norton Sound this whole expedition because this was the moment of truth for Leonard Seppala. This is what made him go down in history as... And most of the people were telling us, even when we got to Unalakleet, they were telling us, you're going to have to skirt around on the land fast ice around the side. You're not going to be able to cross like he did because no one's been able to cross yet. When we got here, exactly where Leonard Seppala did, right up there, when we got there exactly where Leonard Seppala was, we got news that the first set of we say Inuit on the East Coast, but they actually prefer Eskimo over there. Just a little mental note. The first set of Eskimos on snowmobiles had just crossed for the first time of the year. And so the team decided, if anyone can cross, we're going to cross. And it was cold, it was windy, but it was a beautiful day. The ravens are like dancing over the trail and like sirens calling us out into the sea. Come on, it's fine, step on in. And that's exactly what happened. I mean, it was so beautiful until we committed. And then when we committed, this is what happened. When we got out there, that's what happened. Complete blackout. And this was the first time that, and I'm sure that Laura and her dad's seen the same thing. When you raise true Arctic dogs, traditional Arctic dogs, we have our drawbacks. We're not as fast as the superior super dogs, but they also have their benefits too. I've been breeding these dogs for 30 years in the lower 48, and I saw something in them when this happened that I had never seen before. There was no trail. I could not see where I was going. I couldn't even see my lead dogs. But even the dogs that were kind of check in, check out, they're on the team, they're mentally off the team, they're flirting, they're playing. Every single dog leaned into their harness, and they were like college boys at a frat party. They were like, heck yeah, this is awesome, let's do it. And I'm like, Jonathan, shut up, don't say a word. You're going to screw this up if you say anything. And so I'm just standing on the back of the sled, like literally thinking I'm going to die. And the dogs were in heaven. And so it was an amazing moment where I saw what 9,000 years of these dogs in the Arctic brought out in them, and that was pretty amazing. Then the infamous blowhole. There's a lot of things you can prepare for here in Maine. We can prepare for 40 below zero temps, right? And I also want to say, just as an aside, the Can-Am Crown, I'm so glad they're here. I had the opportunity of participating up in Alaska with Mitch Seavey in Iditarod qualifiers, and I got to tell you that not one of them is any more. We have what I believe the most professional Iditarod qualifier right here in the state of Maine. It's done to the nines. It is done quality, and it's done well. So that's really awesome. So there's a lot of things we can prepare for here. We can prepare for 40 below zero. We can prepare for overflow on the rivers. What we cannot prepare for is the blowhole. And this is when reporters asked me, what are you the most concerned about before the expedition? I always said this because I knew what it was going to be. We don't have these winds, these coastal winds that they have on the Bering Sea. There's this region, it's about 20 miles, where the mountain range and the winds create a polar vortex of wind that comes down and just blasts this 20-mile strip of the Bering Sea coast. And I've written these numbers down somewhere, but I haven't used my notes yet since I've been talking. So, if you consider a minus 40 degrees just the typical heavy winds there, the wind chill can be 120 below zero. My friend Larry Murphy, who's run the Iditarod a couple times, he said, I hope Solomon will be nice to you. And right here, I pulled out my camera and I was like, Solomon is not being nice to me. So my team, who had gone ahead of me, the Iron Dog race had caught up to us. And so here in the blowhole, the worst possible space, I start having snowmobilers flying by me at top speeds like this far away, and there's no visibility. And thankfully, Jamie Nichols and Jeff Kelly, who were way ahead of me, were worried enough about me that they thought, John's going to get hit. We almost got hit. So they came back and decided to escort me through the blowhole. Really nice thought, right? But it had some horrible consequences, and those horrible consequences are now they're moving at the speed of a dog team, and their motors are getting filled up with snow and ice, and their machines are shutting down. We found a old trapper cabin, and we pulled in, and here we are, we are 30 miles, 40 miles, 30, 40 miles from the finish. And I'm thinking I could lose a dog, and that was unacceptable. Back 100 years ago, they lost 5 dogs during the serum run. I was not going to lose a dog in this expedition. So we shut down, and the dogs, again, instinct kicked in. They all start balling up in this big ball. The snow starts crusting over them, and that's what they wanted. They have this little eco bubble underneath the snow where they're completely protected from the elements. We go into this little shack that we can't close the door to. It was about 10 by 20, and mushers know this shack. And the guys just pass out asleep, and I can't sleep. I'm like, my dogs are out there. And I was on my hands and knees having to crawl to and from my dogs and the shack. And I woke the guys up, and I said, guys, I'm sorry. I can't do this. And they were like, you going to bring the lead dogs in? I said, no, I'm bringing all of the dogs in. And so we hauled all 16 dogs into this little trapper shack. And it was, that sounds great, right? Good for me? No, it was the wrong decision. The dogs had this beautiful bubble of protection underneath this crust of ice. And when I initially grabbed the gang lines and pulled them up, they came up like this. And I was like, oh my God, they're dead. And no, they weren't. They were asleep. And they looked at me like, seriously, dude? You brought us out in this again? And then I bring them into the shack thinking it's the right thing to do. And all of that snow and ice on them is melting and it's getting them wet. And I was like, I messed up again. So I reach out to a couple of my Iditarod buddies, and they were like, you broke the cardinal rule. You never stop in the blowhole. You stop before the blowhole. You stop after the blowhole. You never stop in the blowhole. And they said, if you think you're going to sit this out, you're wrong. You could be sitting there for 2 weeks. And he said, so first light, he said, sometimes there's a lull. This was Aaron Burmeister. He said, sometimes there's a lull right at sunrise. Whether there's a lull or not, you've got to get those dogs moving. You can't stay there. So the next morning, I start getting the dogs ready while the snow machiners go out and try to get their machines going. And it takes them about an hour to get their machines going. Once they get them going, I get all the 16 dogs on the line, and then their machines break down again. And so the dogs are waiting on, and so I'm like, I got to get my dogs moving. This wind is horrible. I'm worried. They need to be moving. I can't just sit here. So we finally got going, and one snowmobile would break down, and then another snowmobile would break down another. Guess what wasn't breaking down?
The dogs.
Not at all. Like they were in their paradise. Like I had taken them. You and I are, and I'm speaking as a biologist. You and I are tropical naked monkeys. So we cannot fathom that there are animals who actually this is their element, and they were showing me that. And it was a side of my dogs that here in the lower 48 that I had never seen before, and was really proud of them. So eventually I told Jamie, Amy will tell you he's a hothead. He's a redhead and he's a hothead. And actually Amy said, are you sure you want to take my husband on this expedition? But he's the best at what he does. And he was blowing some gaskets. And I said, Jamie, you've got one snowmobile running. The other one's not running. It's because you're moving too slow. Drag the other one to Nome. Get out of here. We'll be fine. And he says, are you sure? Because, he's a good team player. And I was like, yes, go. He goes, the moment my two mechanics take off, I get a tap on the shoulder. And it's Caleb Zinger, the cameraman again. He goes, my snowmobile won't start. And I turn to stop the two mechanics. And I just throw a temper tantrum. I'm kicking my sled. I'm swearing, doing all the stuff that men do when they finally have had enough. I'm blowing a gasket. I literally threw a temper tantrum, threw myself down on the side of the sled, the side opposite the wind. And I sat there for a few seconds and I was like, okay. And I stood up and I just started ripping gear out of my sled. And Caleb said, what are you doing? I was like, hop in the sled. Let's go. We can come back for a snowmobile. We can't come back for you. You'll be dead. Get in. So I mushed Caleb Zingra in the sled. And we made it to Nome. Here's the cool thing. All 16 dogs marched into Nome, high-stepping, happy as anything. And in their brain, this was just another village along the way. In their brain, they were like, we're going to do this again tomorrow, right, boss? It was so amazing. And everyone that was there just talks about how a full team of 16 dogs marching down Front Street like they own the world. It was a beautiful thing. It's a moment that's going to live in my heart forever. I thought I was living Leonard Seppala's. I thought I was retracing Leonard Seppala, but I wasn't. And this is something that came to me as I was mushing into Nome. Leonard Seppala, I was the same age as Leonard Seppala, exactly 100 years later, mushing his dogs on the exact route. So that's not chance. In my mind, I don't believe in luck. I don't believe in chance. I believe in destiny, and I believe that it was my destiny to be there in that moment, doing what I was doing, but not as Leonard Seppala. As I came into Nome, I thought, it was actually Gunnar Kaysen who brought the serum into Nome, and he wasn't mushing his own dogs. He was mushing Leonard Seppala's dogs. And so as I was mushing into Nome, I was thinking, yeah, I'm actually, like, all of this history is just folding in on itself. And just like Gunnar Kaysen mushed into Nome on Leonard Seppala's dogs, here I was mushing into Nome on Leonard Seppala's dogs, the direct descendants of his dogs. And I'd love to talk to you guys about that, but that's a completely different presentation. Amy comes up to me. I'm petting the dogs, loving on the dogs. Amy comes up to me and goes, Jonathan, the mayor and Alaska News Source is waiting for you. And I'm like, yeah, I probably should go talk to them. So I take the serum box that I'd been carrying. I hand it to the mayor. We do this ceremonial handshake and go through all this. And then I get a, ooh, that's cool. That's probably,
there we go.
It was under my notebook.
There it is.
I get this phone call from my dad, and so I thought it was neat that Laura has her dad in her corner. And my dad calls me from Texas. His first question, are you okay? Yes. Second question, are your dogs okay? Yes. And then after I said yes to those two things, he said, Jonathan, he said, at this moment, and this, he verbalized what I felt but could not put words to. He said, in this moment, you're exactly where you're supposed to be, doing exactly what you were supposed to do. And that's a pretty good feeling. It's a pretty good feeling that you don't get very often in life, but to know that you're standing exactly where you're supposed to be standing, doing exactly what you're supposed to be doing in that moment of time was pretty awesome. It was pretty awesome. And so we came home, and Cindy Robbins and I went back to work and made the Seppala Siberian Sled Dog in 2025 on their 100-year anniversary, the official state dog of the state of Maine through legislative work. And so if there's any reporters out there about to ask me what's next, this is what's next. I've been in negotiations with the American Kennel Club. I got our club to vote to approve me pursuing this, and we will be recognized by the American Kennel Club as a distinct breed within the year. So really excited about that. There was something else I wanted to say, all that good stuff about, chase your dreams and set your compass and perseverance, and I really do believe all that. Life is short, and you need it doesn't matter how old you are either. You need to set some goals for yourself. You need to push yourself to accomplish those things. That's when you feel most alive.
If you enjoyed this episode, do me a favor. Hit subscribe wherever you're listening and share it with somebody who needs a good adventure story right now. It genuinely helps this show reach more people, and I'd be grateful for it. You can reach out to us on our social medias. We are at Mush, Maine. That's where I post trail updates, dog team photos, behind the scenes. And if you want to reach out directly, you can also send me a question or book me to speak or just tell me your own story. You can email me at jonathannathanielhayes@gmail.com. Until next time, mush on and God bless.